Matt Miller of ESPN named Hendon Hooker his favorite overall pick of the 2023 NFL draft. I hate it, as I said, and I got ripped on the YouTube message board, and I knew I would, and I got ripped on Twitter. That's fine. I hated that Hendon Hooker went to the Detroit Lions. I don't want to have that conversation right now, but and they may turn things around. History would indicate not. I certainly hope they do, and nothing for the best for Hendon Hooker because I think he's a great person as much as anything. Not necessarily because he went to Tennessee, as I think those that have followed us realize we're pretty objective here. But what did you think of Matt Miller naming Hendon Hooker his favorite pick of the NFL draft?
I was shocked, but then I think of Matt Miller as probably somebody that there were two types of analysts out there. There was the Mel Kiper Jr. that doesn't do his research and just studies like, oh, any hyper quarterback looks like this. And then there was the Matt Miller. And a lot of people were more like Matt Miller, including Pat McAfee, Josh Pate, giving a few shout outs here that basically we're talking about they were in love with the way Hendon Hooker played and thought that he was honestly outside of Bryce Young had a case over any other quarterback in the draft. I think you and I were in that camp, right? Like outside of Bryce Young, Hendon Hooker had a case over any other quarterback. If you're in that camp and you see Hendon Hooker go in the third round, you see the ultimate steal at the position. Now, the thing that he mentioned that kind of threw me off a little bit was he did say the Lions have a real opening for a quarterback of the future behind Jared Goff. And that's what I kind of thought because he has 2 years left on his deal. But news came out yesterday that Goff and the Lions are talking about an extension, which kind of threw me off a little bit. I thought they were going to let Goff play out his contract and then just move on and go to Hendon Hooker. And so I kind of, at that point, the excitement I felt for Hooker going to Detroit subsided a little because I'm like, okay, why are they working on this contract extension now with Goff? Shouldn't they make him play it out and try to get the extension? And it leads me to maybe you're right, Dave. Maybe they're still incompetently run because they have Goff locked in for 2 years. Why would they give him the extension now?
Well, I want to see the parameters of the extension. Okay. My guess is that it'll be guaranteed for 2 years and not guaranteed for 4 or 5. And all of these, there really is no salary cap in the NFL. You can circumvent that in a number of ways with backloaded deals, front-loaded deals. So I want to see where the Goff deal is. Is it front-loaded? Is it backloaded? My guess is that, listen, Goff is suddenly getting a little bit older. You don't have a long run in the NFL. And he's suddenly a bit tarnished because you look at what the Rams were able to do without him. And I think he wants to get paid. So I think he'll want to get paid on a front end contract. And I really don't think it affects Hendon Hooker whatsoever. I really don't. Now, if they come out with a $240 million contract and 200's guaranteed, well, that's bad news. But I don't think that's going to happen. If so, you have to come back to me and say the Lions were the wrong organization, right?
Oh, I will totally concede that if they give Jared Goff a $240 million deal, like absolutely I will. I mean, yeah, I'll be right there with you. Shockingly to me, though, he's outlasted Carson Wentz. They were the top 2 picks of that draft, and Jared Goff actually ended up being more effective. But I think that we'll have to see how this plays out. You're right.
So what do you think are fair expectations for Hendon Hooker?
Full career or this year?
You're 1, 2, 3. What should his goals be?
Well, Hendon Hooker's personal goal should be to win the job now because that's what a quarterback should always be thinking. I mean, you should never accept holding a clipboard. That doesn't mean you leave if you hold the clipboard, but you should always be trying to win the job, particularly in the NFL. Tom Brady did not sit there and say, I'll wait till Drew Bledsoe's contract is up. He's like, no, I'm going to beat out Drew Bledsoe. And the minute Bledsoe got hurt, Tom Brady came in and the rest is history. So that's where it should be. Now, in terms of what the reasonable expectations are, I think riding the bench this year. I mean, not even seeing the field because Hendon Hooker has a lot of things he's got to work on, including particularly footwork, some accuracy things over the middle. This is the Aaron Rodgers rookie year in Green Bay. They've got to retool a lot of Hendon Hooker's fundamentals. I think next year, which is the last year on Goff's contract, as of right now, see him be the regular backup, come in for certain plays. Goff will probably get hurt here and there, and Hooker comes in, takes snaps at different times, and you can see flashes in year 2. I think it's fair to expect him to be the starter by year 3. I've been pretty big on. I think Hooker should be the starter by year 3.
I'm going to tell you, I think reasonable expectations is he takes over the starting job in year 2. And I'm basing that, and it might be midway through year 2. I'm basing that off Hendon Hooker, because Hendon Hooker is highly intelligent and a hard worker. So he is going to exceed expectations. So for most individuals picked in the 3rd round, I would say you're absolutely right. 3rd round or later, NFL quarterback. There's not pressure financially to get you into the lineup. So year 3, fine. But I think with Hendon Hooker and his ability to adapt, remember, this is a guy that had accuracy issues this time last year, Caleb. His ability to adapt, I think it's reasonable to expect him to be the Lions starter by midway through the 2024 season. I don't think that's a reach. And Mr. Jones agrees with me, starts midseason week 9 or 10. No, I think he means this year. I would be very surprised if he starts this year, barring injury.
Yeah, there's a lot of mechanical things Hooker needs to work on this year. As a matter of fact, I think for his sake, you don't want him starting this year. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think Hooker is probably, although I don't know. What do you think, Dave? I do think Hendon Hooker has the Peyton Manning level of maturity, whereas if he played horrible, he would be one of those people like Peyton Manning that could absorb the negativity that comes with playing horrible and use it to better himself. I think Hendon Hooker is that type of quarterback, but I still don't want to see his confidence wrecked too much playing this year.
No, I mean, Peyton Manning set the record for most interceptions in a year, his rookie year. I don't think that you want to see Hendon Hooker go through that. What you do want to see is better vision without contacts and without glasses. Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn is phenomenal. I had LASIK. I have 0 issues with my vision up close, far away. Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn, they've got the vision centers for your annual checkups, but they also can do fantastic work with LASIK and cataract surgery as well. I don't think it's, again, Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn, it's not a disappointment, Caleb, if Hendon Hooker is not a starter till year 3 whatsoever. So while I believe that he will at some point in year 2, which would be 2024, take over the starting job from Goff, I don't want this to be looked at as, a year and a half from now, somebody says, Dave, you said he would, so now he's a disappointment. It's not a disappointment if he runs out there at some point in year 3 as the starter.
No, it's not a disappointment at all if he does that. I mean, I think that's the trajectory that he's on. I think that's Detroit's trajectory. Look, again, it's no secret that, I mean, it's no coincidence that Goff has a 2 years left on his deal, and they take a quarterback that we all agree is somewhat of a project. That's usually 2 to 3 years sitting on the bench waiting your turn to start. And so I think we'll have to see how it goes. I will say, if Hooker is inserted into the starting lineup midway through year 2 and he's ready to go, prepare for a Jalen Hurts type of splash. And I only say that because quarterbacks with this level of mobility, almost always their first year starting when they're inserted, how many times do they catch defensive coordinators off guard, and do they have a monstrous first year starting? Because mobile quarterbacks are oftentimes, in the NFL, they do get figured out. And I'm not saying Hooker's like a run first quarterback. He's not. I'm saying quarterbacks with that level of mobility, the mobility factor usually does get figured out, but it takes defensive coordinators a year. How many run first quarterbacks have had a splash, amazing first year? And, never really replicated that after that.
Here's the thing to watch with Hendon Hooker. And this is what they did with Jalen Hurts at Philadelphia. And I do not want to paint Hendon Hooker as a running quarterback, because he's not. Jalen Hurts was a pure running quarterback when he was in college and came to the NFL that could throw. Hendon Hooker is a thrower that can run. There's a big difference. So Hendon Hooker, you can utilize his running ability early in his career to move people around and to put the pressure on the defense, because you've got another ball carrier to keep track of. But that can evolve over time. And that's what they've done with Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, and if you want to say at the Baltimore Ravens, oh gosh, his name suddenly escapes me. Quarterback.
Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson. They did the same thing with him. So he came out and he was initially a runner, and then he has turned into a very good passer. They could do that with him. The NFL is better equipped to handle running backs than they have been at any point in its history. So I think as long as they approach this the right way, the best case scenario is that he doesn't play at all as a rookie, like Caleb said. I agree with that. Let's get some things worked out. Let's get him used to the NFL game. You don't have to play right away. If Goff goes down, you have to run him out there. But in year two, you could have an approach where you base a lot on his running ability, and then you adapt it to more of a passing attack.